Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Wandering Road Podcast. I'm your host Chris, and for today's show, I have a guest, my sister Jenny, who wanted to come on and share her paranormal experiences. As you all know, we both grew up in a haunted house, a creepy house in New York, and she wanted to come on and shared her perspective.
Hey Chris, I'm doing good. Thank you for finally having me on here after begging so many times.
I know I'm bad with the timing and scheduling. I'll try to get better
Yeah.
at that. But why don't we jump right into things? What would you say was your most earliest paranormal experience? It doesn't have to be directly from that house. In general, what would you say?
It's actually from that house because when we moved there, I was like 3, right? So I was still little, but this is not really much of an experience. This is what like mom has told me, but I was there. So mom and Thea were there, our aunt. She was helping her, I guess, clean out the house because apparently when they bought the house, everything was in there. Like people just who sold the house just got up and left. So they just left everything behind. So I just remember after we ate, I was playing around. They were doing their thing. So Thea was telling mom, she goes up to mom and she's like, "Oh, you have visitors in your house." And I'm like looking at Thea, I'm like, "Yeah, you're the visitor, silly." What I didn't know that mom actually told me that there was like footsteps that were being heard. And she knew, automatically mom knew. She felt the presence of those entities in those house. And it's like very creepy. At that age, I'm like, I'm young. I'm not paying attention. Yeah, I'm like, Thea, you're the visitor in the house. So that's one of the things I remember. My first experience was actually watching Toy Story. I guess I was 4. I'd say like a year after we had moved in. I'm watching Toy Story. My mom and aunt, they're packing the laundry. So after the movie ends, I go up to them and I'm like holding onto someone's hand, the little boy. And I go up to them. I'm like, "This is my imaginary friend Andy." And my mom was like, "Andy?" She's like, "Andy?" Like, I don't see no Andy. And then our other aunt was like, "Okay, your imaginary friend Andy." Another experience mom have told me about. I don't really remember this, but when I like try to think about it, it slowly plays in my head. Mom and I, we used to go shopping. So one time it was our grandma, mom and I. So we're walking, like I've like left the house holding someone's hand, and Andy, who is a little boy. At the time I saw him as a little boy. God knows what he really was. He was a little boy with a sailor suit.
Was that the time y'all were gonna go shopping and mom asked when we got up the street, "Where's your friend?"
Yes.
Because I was with you guys. I remember that.
Okay.
I remember
right,
that. She asked, like, "Oh, where's your friend?" And you said
Like
something
his
like,
mom wouldn't
he
let
can't
him
leave the...
go that far.
Yes,
Yeah.
that his mom wouldn't let him go
Yeah.
that far. Like he couldn't leave like the
Yeah, he couldn't
property
leave like down.
outside of the
He couldn't
gate.
leave down the block. He couldn't leave down. I just remember holding his hand to the like down the block, and then it was like because we weren't close. Like we weren't in far from down the block when we were going towards the avenue. Okay, mom was like, "This child." I know she was freaking out. Every time she tells me that, mom is like, "Yeah, you crazy child." I'm like, another experience in that house with the same little kid was when after our grandpa had died. So it was like after the funeral, we're at the wake. That's what it was. And everyone's like downstairs in our aunt's apartment. And we're just like there watching TV, eating, hanging out with our cousins and stuff. My cousin and I decided to go upstairs because we wanted to play with them.
For those of you that don't know what cousin that is our cousin Cassandra, who recounts this tale in her episode that was released a few episodes ago.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Because Sandra and I, we went upstairs because we just wanted to play. Like, we're little kids. We want to play with our toys. So we go to my room. It's pitch black. And I just remember it's so dark. Like, I don't understand why we didn't turn on any lights. So me and Cassandra, we run upstairs and we run to my room. We turn on the light. And I guess we're looking for our Bratz dolls or whatever we wanted to play with. So we had gotten what we got, and I turn around, I see Cassandra staring, and I just remember seeing the little boy, Andy, staring at us. He kind of looked sad because I think this was the time when I had completely forgotten about him. I don't remember interacting with him so much because I was like around like 8 at that time. So we both turn off the light and we run downstairs because we're like, oh shit. Like, I still remember that to this day.
But I wanted to ask you, you said that mom already knew that stuff was around there. Like there was stuff in there. And she heard the footsteps. You remember those footsteps we would hear in the attic? Those loud ass
You know, they found army boots from World War II in the attic.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I didn't believe them when they said they found World War II military regalia because you remember we'd be sitting in the living room with dad waiting for mom to come home, and it would be like 6 p.m. and you would hear the stomping of boots in the attic going back and forth. And you remember they tried to tell us it was pigeons
New York pigeons wearing Timbs. Like
Tim's squirrels don't fucking make boot stomping sounds.
I was like,
they don't make boot stomping sounds.
I was like, yeah, okay, pigeons are gonna make those noises. They're wearing Timbs and New York Yankees fitted.
Yeah, that's not a thing. They tried telling us that it was like squirrels and pigeons in the attic.
And pigeons are not gonna make that noise.
Big ass boots.
It sounded
pounding.
like steel toes.
Like someone was.
Yes.
Yeah, like someone was stomping on there. Someone was stomping their boots.
Oh, remember this one with our cousin that we were chilling in your room, and it was wintertime, so dad, he liked to put the plastic on the windows because it's cold. And the door opens, and our cousin was like, oh yeah, the power of Christ compels you, and the door slammed shut so fast. We started laughing. But now when I really think about that, that shit is crazy. It's terrifying.
Yeah, it was funny at first because the door did shut pretty quickly. And like you did say that, our dad had this obsession with putting plastic on the windows. I guess I turned into our parents because I live in Pennsylvania and I do that shit every winter. So, yeah, I understand now, but I digress from that. But I did want to ask you, I know I dealt with a lot of name calling me, like voices and footsteps when I'm alone. And you felt like something was watching you. When I talked to Cassandra about this, she said that you felt like you were targeted. Could you go into more detail on why you felt that way? Because I didn't feel like that. It kind of, for me, from my perspective, it was more of a nuisance because I was a teenager at the time. Yeah. And you weren't a teen until I think we actually moved out of that place. But for me, it was more of an irritant or a nuisance because like I'm sitting there trying to play my Xbox, trying to, do martial arts, trying to be on my computer, talking on AIM and AOL. I was very much entrenched in my own lifestyle. But for you, did you really feel that you were targeted? And could you explain why you think so and what potentially had happened?
Most definitely I felt targeted. I think it was due to the fact that I was young. I'm a little kid, innocence. Like sometimes spirits and evil entities love to attach themselves and bother little kids because of their innocence. That's like, I really felt targeted because of that, because I was just so vulnerable as a kid. You're vulnerable to like everything. So I feel like since I was like the weakest out of like almost everyone, because you had a little bit more sense to things like that. Me not knowing much about it. So they felt like I felt like they just came to me because they're like, oh, hey, this is someone we can just come to and bother. She's innocent.
As you know, I was an atheist at the time. I hated everything spiritual. Spiritual. I hated. And I know in like almost most episodes where we talk about spirituality with my co-host Dean, that comes up. Or if I had our cousin Chris on the pod, I had my friend Aaron on the pod, I had Willie. And anytime the topic of spirituality and religion pops up, I make it a point to say that, yes, now I am a Catholic. But for context, back then, I was an atheist. So I really didn't pay attention to that crap, and I didn't believe in that crap. I liked paranormal stuff. I like ghost stories. Everybody likes ghost stories because we all have this morbid curiosity with having the shit scared out of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're onto there where you being so
Hmm.
young, they had a target because you went to school and back. You didn't really have your own life at that time, per se. It was kind of dictated off of a schedule. Like you go to school, you come home, mom and dad take care of you, our aunts take care of you, you interact with me, yada, yada, yada. And there was no like real explanation of what the spiritual world was. So, what else would you say happened that made you feel targeted?
Sometimes at night, yeah, I'd hear scratching noises. Like I didn't have like an actual door. It was like this little plastic pull-out thing from the side. You remember that, right?
Yeah, that fake
Yeah,
wooden
that
thing.
fake wooden
Yeah.
thing. So I had that, and I just
Yeah.
remember, and it's like literally all coming back to me as we speak about it. Like, I just remember being scared shitless, waking up in the middle of the night, just hearing scratches, and I'm like, I thought it was rats. I try to blame it on the rats. And, mom being the Catholic that she is, she always like, she was trying to teach us to pray and stuff. So I did say a prayer to like help calm.
For context, we didn't have
Yeah.
rats.
We didn't, but I'm like, growing up in New York, it's like there's rats everywhere. We're overrun by rats. So I'm like thinking it's rats, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's rats. And I wake up the next morning and I told mom, and she's like, we don't have rats. She tried to keep to herself. She didn't want to, like, I guess, expose me to all of that because I was still young. I was like 8, 9. So she didn't want to freak me out. Oh, I remember another one. This was when our cousin had her birthday at our house upstairs. So she's in my room with her brother and sister. And we're just listening to music on my little Macintosh. And I'm listening to music and we hear a scratching noise by my little door because I had closed it. And it's like moving a little bit. My other cousin, she opens it and there was no one there. Like all the grown-ups were in the living room laughing, drinking, listening to music, and we're like freaked out. And our other cousin just starts laughing and we thought that she did something. But later on she told us no, it was like something moving the door.
I don't think I ever told anyone this, but that little half room that used to stay
I
in,
call it
you
the
used to
Harry
stay
Potter
in.
room.
Yeah, the Harry Potter room. Yeah. I remember one night, I think it had to have been summer because you weren't there. You probably went somewhere to stay at our aunt's
Like,
or
yeah, like,
something for a
yeah.
sleepover. You might have been with like Cassandra and
Mm-hmm.
whatnot for a sleepover because you guys did do that a
Yeah.
lot. I remember the PlayStation was in that room. And that room had a big ass window, and when you would open it in the summer, it was pretty cool. Like it would keep you cool, so you didn't have to put an AC
Yeah.
in. So I decided to game in that room that night and open the window.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll never forget. It was around 2 in the morning. That door was closed. I'm laying in bed. For some reason, I woke up. I think I had to go to the bathroom or something. And I heard something like do like a roar slash growl by that door that I remember to this day. And you remember that one show you used to watch, like the Slow North?
Yeah.
And he would like do like growls and stuff like
Yeah.
that. It kind of reminded me of that.
Mm.
And for some reason, I just had this burning image printed in my head that outside of that door was something that looked like that Slow Norris character, but more sinister, waiting for me to open that door to do God knows
Yeah.
what. I don't think I
No,
ever
you
told you this
haven't
before.
actually.
So, along with you, everyone else is hearing this for the first
Yeah.
time. But that was probably one of the only times I was legitimately scared in that house.
Another one, and I think you have experienced it with me as well, when our aunt had opened up the bathroom door and she was lifted up 1 feet off the ground and thrown across the room.
I'm going to stop
Yeah.
you for a second. I told y'all I wasn't bullshitting about that. We have another person. I didn't even bring it up. And here you are talking about
Like,
it.
I can remember it like it was yesterday. That it's just etched in.
Was it in the summertime or was it the
It was
winter
like
time? The
summertime,
summertime.
yeah.
Okay.
It was definitely summertime. I remember just like wearing like a tank. I just remember wearing summer clothes. But yeah, I can still remember it to this day. Her being lifted off the ground as soon as she opened that door and just flung across the room, and she hits her back on the closet door. Like that was
Yes. Yes.
crazy. And then mom had to joke about it. She's like, well, the ghost was using the bathroom and he wanted privacy. And I'm like, mom, please.
I remember that. I remember mom joking about
Mm-hmm.
that. It all happened
It's
so
so
quick.
fast.
It wasn't
It was like in slow mo.
like you
It was just like that.
it
So fast.
if you turned around for a second, if you
Mhm.
blinked, you would have missed the entire
Yes.
thing. It happened so quick and so slow at the same time that there's no way to
Yeah.
explain it.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that shook me.
Mhm.
I'm like, what the actual
Yeah.
fuck?
That shit was crazy. And mom has told me after she had cleansed the house, because mom loved to cleanse the house. That's like, I feel like one of the reasons why they didn't really mess with us so much was because mom was always
Yeah.
praying and just cleansing the house. So I had told mom, I was like, can I talk about this on the podcast? She said, of course. I got her permission. She told me that after she had done a cleansing, the lady that had died in that house, she dreamt about her. And the lady was like choking her, saying, I'm going to kill you, and threatening mom. And mom, like, she said that she hit her arm and started choking her back. And she's like, who's going to hurt who now? And ever since then, that entity has not bothered us, except for the others, of course. But that one specifically has kept a distance from mom and us. I remember, and I'm like, when mom told me, I was like just so baffled because she told me when I got older. She didn't tell me at that age, obviously, but as I got older, and I'm like, oh my god, that's scary.
Do you remember this was closer to when we were leaving that house to move? She liked to cleanse the house, like you said, but she would ask our uncle downstairs, who they weren't Catholic, they were Muslim, and she would ask him, like, you want me to, is it okay if I do, pray around, burn the incense and stuff? And he was okay with that too. He was like, yeah, that's fine. So she burns the incense. She's going through every room and praying. Then she gets to one particular room where she felt the atmosphere get so thick and she felt like something was choking her. And I think she actually told me that story of the dream that she
Mhm.
had. She said that happened after she did that incense burning
Yeah.
in that particular
Yeah,
room.
I remember. I think it was downstairs where our aunt and uncle used to sleep in because that's where the lady had died. So I remember that happening to mom, and I'll tell you right now, I've had an experience about going in a room and feel like you're being choked, but that's for another story. But I just remember mom mentioning that, and I'm like, "Are you serious?" And you, like, in the incense, you can tell through the smoke. When she goes through the house, it's like the same, but when she got to that particular room, the smoke just intensified. So it's like, okay, why is that happening? So when mom told me that, I was like, yeah, I did the cross. Yeah, they hated us. And they hated our grandma too, especially they tormented her a lot.
Yes, they did. And I've actually I think I've talked
I
about
think
that
you did.
before because our grandmother, she would wake up before sunrise and pray for like over an hour.
Yeah.
My earliest memories of her, she would wake me up with her when I was little. And this was when we lived in the
Mm-hmm.
Bronx. Those apart, she would wake me up and just because I'm like 3 years old, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So I'm like going there and I'm watching her and I'm, doing that stuff with her. But yeah, you remember when she broke her wrist or something?
Oh,
Or was she broke her
I was
arm?
just about to talk about that.
Yeah, why don't you go into
Yeah.
that? You explain
So
it.
I wasn't there. Our aunt, who had just recently visited, had told me about it. She she just got out of the shower, and I don't know if you remember our grandma's bathroom in the basement. That it wasn't like a bathtub or anything. It was just like this shower and with shower curtain.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
a
it was a standing
standing shower
shower,
with like a
right?
chair.
So she gets
Yeah.
out. Remember, it's not much of like how do I say it, like a gap or like the little height thingies when you get into the shower.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
what you mean. There wasn't a large
like a
step
large
or
step,
like anything
exactly.
for her to
So
step
yeah, the
over.
step.
Yeah.
So it wasn't big, and apparently she was shoved. They tried to make it seem that she had tripped over that, but the way her wrist broke, it like she was shoved. They pushed her. There was no way mom would trip over that. So I was so surprised that she had broken her wrist, and it broke my heart because she would always wake up in the middle of the night and they're just bothering her, saying that they won't let her sleep. And I can't just imagine, like, I can imagine, like, what she went through, especially after our grandpa died, 4 years without him being by her side. So, what else she had experienced?
Do you know if she ever told mom or dad about anything that she experienced in general, aside from being pushed?
She has told mom a few stuff, saying that they wouldn't let her sleep. They were always walking around. There was always noises being made. And she was just like, she would always say, and I remember clear as day, always saying to our mom, they won't let me sleep in peace. They always make noise. And I felt bad, and I loved bringing her down, like walking her down to sleep and stuff, to the basement. She never wanted to walk through that staircase. You remember the staircase I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I never liked going up and down that
Yeah.
side staircase. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was.
It was always dark, even in the daytime. It was dark. Even with the light on, it was dark. Like, you can have the brightest light in that room or that corner, and it's just so dark. That stairway as well, like, our grandpa actually hated it. He hated that staircase to go up. And there was two of them too, one in the front, one in the back. But the one in the front was the one that we hated the most.
Yeah, do you remember when it was probably in the summertime.
I fell.
Yeah,
you always laugh
fell
about
up
this
the stairs
because I was screaming
Yeah, and you
help,
were
but in reality, I was pushed.
Oh, okay. I thought you had tripped up the stairs, and then I heard you screaming, "Help, somebody help me." And I used to
You
clown you
still
for it
clown
all
me
the
for it.
time.
Don't play it.
I always will.
I still
I'm
laugh at
sorry.
it
It
too.
was
So,
hilarious at the
but
time.
no,
The way you were
I was
screaming.
by myself, and I forgot what I had went. Like, I went to the basement for. I think our grandma and grandpa. I went to visit them. And I come up the stairs. I'm like walking up the stairs. I'm not running. I'm walking. I don't think I told you this, but I kid you not. I felt like a hand on my back, and it pushed me up. Like, I'm like, how did I trip up the stairs? And I guess that's why I was screaming for help. And then mom was just like, "Oh my god, you're over exaggerating." But I remember feeling something push me. It was scary. I think I was crying, and then every time you see me, you're like, "Help!" It's been a very crazy experience. Like, I just remember, and it's dark. So I just remember, oh my god, going up the stairs, walking slowly, and I just felt like this big hand push me, and I'm screaming for help, and I'm like, help, help, and then all you guys come here like, what happened? And I'm just laying on the stairs screaming help. But when I remember it, I remember feeling a hand on my back pushing me, and it hurt. Like, I actually hurt myself.
So after you were pushed, did you see anything or did you feel anything around you when that happened? Or it kind of just happened and you just fell and then you screamed for help?
So after I just felt the hand on my back, just being pushed, that was it. I didn't feel anything after that, and I just screamed for help. I didn't feel anything else. It was just, I can still feel that hand on my back, to be honest.
Now I'm going to ask you, do you remember the times you would sleepwalk and say like weird things?
I don't.
While we lived in that house, you would sleepwalk a lot and say the weirdest crap, terrifying type of stuff. And mom would yell at you about it. And it's like, well, you're sleepwalking. It's like, where does a like a 6-year-old kid know how to say this stuff? I remember one time that you got so mad, you picked up like this little orange dictionary we had, and you just started saying like the craziest shit about devils coming into the house to get everyone and to get me and to get mom. And when we moved out, like, it just stopped. You didn't sleepwalk anymore. You didn't have those tantrums anymore. Nothing.
You know what's crazy? I don't remember any of that happening. I remember you telling me about it, and one time you still make fun of me for this one, of me going up to you guys, like, I guess mom's room, and saying the thing. And then I ended up throwing up, and you still clown me
Yeah,
about it.
it was like 10:30 at night. It was in the summertime. You walk into mom's room and you just start doing like you're mashing buttons, right? And you say the thing, the thing, the thing, where's the thing? And then half a second later, you throw up and then you wake up and have no idea of what the hell is going on. Now, I don't know if that was you being a weird kid because, you had sleepwalking issues and it was something medical, or it was some sort of influence. I can't really say.
I would have to say, like, because as soon as we moved out of that house, I've never had anything like that. I could probably say it was whatever is in that house trying to possess me, but I have no recollection of any of that except for what you have told me, mom, dad, and you telling me about it. But I really don't remember sleepwalking at all. Oh, I also have a story about sleepwalking. Our two cousins, they had slept over our house in that house, and it was like we were sleeping in the living room. Yeah, we had slept over in the living room. Our aunt downstairs she had bought us McDonald's, so we kind of blamed it on the McDonald's. But I kid you not, it was mom, me, and our two cousins, the twins. And I just remember one of them getting up and walking, and we're calling her name, and we're like saying her name, we're calling her, and she, as soon as she gets to like close to where the door to leave by the kitchen and to the door to exit the apartment, she stops and she wakes up and she looks at us, and she doesn't, like, she remembers like waking up after, but she doesn't remember getting up from the bed. And we joke about it now, but when we look back, we're like, oh my gosh, that's creepy. So she just gets up and she starts walking very slow, like a zombie type walk. And we're like we're calling her name, and she's like not answering until she gets to that part. I don't understand why specifically that part of the house, but just wakes up and she comes to us and tries to go back to sleep. She was a little freaked out.
This is the first time I heard that. And that's completely terrifying.
I don't know, and it was so dark that night. I don't know why it was so dark. And remember how that block had a lot of street lamps and the
Yes.
windows in that living room, there were so many of them, but it was just so dark. Even with the light shining outside, it was dark.
Everybody could be outside. Everyone could be outside. We'll go hang out. Everybody be in a good mood. But as soon as we stepped foot in that house, everyone was just like angry all the time. And it was so crazy.
So dark. Even when you entered the house, when you went upstairs, of course, to where we were, it was a little bit more lighter during the daytime. And you can tell that you could have felt the difference. It was lighter. But once you went downstairs, it was just darkness, and it was kind of creepy. And every time I look back on a memory just being downstairs, it was always dark. Always dark.
Yeah, I felt the same way too. I never liked being alone in that house. I would always lock myself in my room and never come out because I just didn't want to be there.
Yeah, and I have another experience. I guess this is when you were in school. I was with mom. I guess she had the day off. We're just chilling and stuff. And we start hearing noise in the kitchen. I don't know if mom remembers this. I kind of remember this, of just like hearing noise in the kitchen, like they're just slamming the cabinets. And it sounded like they were trying to destroy the kitchen. So it was like that was another crazy experience. That house, I feel like it's always going to be part of our life. We can't erase it. It's a memory, and it's scary because now when I have dreams and I dream about a house, it's like I'm there and I hate it. And it's always nighttime and it's creepy.
I can say for me, thankfully, I don't dream of that place. I don't really think about that place aside from when I'm doing a show with someone that experienced something there. It's interesting. I talked to you about this stuff. I talked to mom about this stuff. You know who never talked about what they experienced? Dad never talked about anything.
Yeah, he hasn't.
Did he ever tell you anything, or?
No, he hasn't mentioned anything like about being in that house. Like I don't know if he's experienced anything, but he never.
Oh, he has. I know he has, because one time, this is a secondhand story I got from mom, was that it was like 2 a.m. and he heard footsteps in the living room going to the front of the house, to lure
Oh, I
them to
remember
back.
this.
And he picked up his baseball bat and he started like just fucking wigging
Yeah, he
out,
flipped out. I
apparently.
remember.
Yelling at it and screaming and whatever. So the man has experienced some stuff, but I feel like kind of like with what Cassandra said in her episode, our dads just try to ignore
Mm-hmm.
it because, like, honestly, what can you conceivably
Like,
do?
hon-
You can't do
mhm.
anything. You just have to deal with it and hope it doesn't, get out of control until you can actually leave. But you did mention before when we have our private conversations that you've had paranormal experiences in general, and that wasn't just localized to this house. Before we move on to that, was there anything else that happened in that crappy house that we grew up in that you want to get off your chest?
Definitely. The black shadow that I saw, that
What black shadow?
so
Where'd you see
by
this?
the staircase, the dark area.
Oh,
So
lovely.
that was like when I had graduated high school, and I don't like talking about it because it was just so scary. And that was the last time I was in that house. Because remember when we had left? We had left. I forgot what year. I was like going to middle school. So
It was
oh
in
eight.
February. I think it was 2007, actually.
2007. Right. Yeah, I just remember being.
Yeah, February of
Yeah, I
2007.
was in middle school, and this is when I had graduated high school. So this was 10 years ago that I'm like exiting the house, and I turn around and I'm like, what the fuck? There was a just a black entity. And I think it was Cassandra that was with me because she had turned around, and I remember her saying, do you see that? And I turn around and I see this black entity, and I'm like, what the fuck? So we ran out the house, and that was like the last time I've been at that house. But a couple years ago and recently, I have walked by that house because me and my cousins were like, yeah, let's just walk by the house. It's weird. Da da da. So we're walking by the house, and just the heavy intensity of someone staring at you, very uncomfortable. It's just so heavy. Like when we walked by, we didn't even want to stare at the house. We couldn't stare at the house because it felt so weird. It's like the entities are just staring at us and it's like, I know you. And one time I felt a sharp pain in my head, a migraine, but it was like a shooting pain, like just 10 times worse. And as soon as I walked down the block, it was gone. It was just the craziest. So like we still walk by that house every time we go and go visit.
Why do you, though? Because whenever I visited New York, I just avoided it like the plague. I would, even if I had to drive by it, because our cousin that I'm super close with, he lived across the street, and I was always at his house all the time during the summertime for like days on end. When we go visit him now, I when I drive down the street, I don't look at that house. Why do you think that you feel so compelled to go and walk by that place or even look at it?
I don't know. It's just I feel it's like mixture of like curiosity and it just feels like something tells me to go walk by. Like me and my cousin, like we think we're like, oh, we should go walk by the house, but then it's like, why should we? We don't have to, but we do. It could just be curiosity mostly, or it's just that I'm drawn to the house, because like I still dream about it, even when I'm not thinking about it, and it's been years I haven't think about it. It randomly pops up in my head, and I dream about it, and I hate it. I really hate dreaming about that house because it's so creepy. But I honestly don't really know why. I just want to go see it.
So why don't you share your other paranormal experiences that you've had outside of that house?
Oh, okay, yeah. This was around junior year of high school. Our aunt who lives in Harlem, had recently got knee replacement surgery. So her husband's in Dominican Republic. So we're just like mom and I we're there taking care of her, helping her out because knee replacement surgery is very painful and they're kind of hopeless. So Thea, just to give you guys a heads up, she does have something attached to her for years. It's always been with her, and he gets very jealous. I think it's an incubus, honestly, because he has mentioned to her, he has come to her, and he's like, if you sleep with me, I will give you all the money in the world. I'll give you anything you want. So we're taking care of her, and she had her leg resting on a stool. I'm across from her. I don't know if you remember her apartment. It's not big.
Yeah, I do. I do remember.
Yeah, so her apartment's not big. So, like, she's across from me and she has her leg resting on a stool. And all of a sudden, mom is in the kitchen, and all of a sudden, I literally see the stool being pulled out from under her foot. And her leg hits the floor so hard that she starts crying in pain because it hasn't even been like a week since she came out of surgery. So she's there crying. I'm just there flabbergasted. My mouth is open, and my mom comes running in, and she's like, "What happened? What happened? What happened? Did you pull this from her?" And mom is like, "No, she didn't pull it from me." Another experience in that apartment was her being pushed into the bathtub. So she was like in her bathroom, the door is open. She keeps it open so like that if she needs anything, we can go in. She had told me to get like her towel, so I went to go give her towel, and all I see is like she doesn't even, when people lose their balance, you can tell. No, she was pushed. Like you can physically see her body just moving. She falls, like she grabs onto like the wall. Thank God the tub is not extra wide. So she holds onto the wall, and I'm still there standing at her like, oh my God. And mom pushed me out of the way because I was so shocked at what happened. So, like, it's been very crazy in that apartment, and I had recently stayed with her when I was in New York, and that thing that's with her gets very, very jealous. So if Thea is very affectionate with someone, he gets mad and gets very upset. So Thea, she's affectionate, our loving Thea. So she was like, when I was visiting her, I helped her out a lot with stuff. So she would always give me a hug, give me kisses, make sure I'm okay. She has like a pull-out bed on her couch. So that's where I was sleeping. And I kid you not, Chris, when I was laying down, I'm on my phone, I'm scrolling because our Tia and uncle went to sleep because they had an appointment, they had to wake up early. And I'm like staring by where her door is, her bedroom door. There's like a little hallway. And there's something there staring at me. And I look at him and I'm like, don't mess with me.
What did it look like?
It was just a silhouette of a man. It's a black shadow.
Just a shadow of a man. It looked like a shadow person. It didn't have like horns or nothing like that. I didn't see any
horns
that you could see.
But it was a silhouette of a man. And it's bright in that apartment because outside housing has like these lights out, and her curtains were kind of like clear. So I see him standing there and I'm like, oh, you're messing with the wrong one. Like, don't bother me. It disappears. And, I say my prayer, I go to sleep. Another experience in that apartment with that thing, I was by myself. I was in the kitchen. I'm cooking up something because I'm hungry. Our aunt and uncle, they went to an appointment. So they're at an appointment. I'm like cooking something, and I'm actually on the phone with Cassandra too. And she's like, I'll call you back. I'm like, okay. So I'm by like her fridge, and on the corner of my eye, I see him staring at me. And like I looked and he was gone. But your peripheral, you can see things. I looked and he was gone, and I was like, can you please leave me alone? That's my aunt, and I love her, and she loves me. And I always say my prayer. Guess he got a little upset because I had a palo santo, which is holy wood in English. So it's like a little incense for cleaning. And our cousin had gave me one, and I had like lit it up, and I cleansed, everywhere. The TVs, mirrors, your phones, because those hold on to negative energy. And I did a little cleansing for her. And I think that entity just got pissed that I did that, because he used to get upset with mom too when she used to do that there.
It's crazy that it seems like you did a cleansing, mom did a cleansing, and this thing just wouldn't leave. Do we know why?
I don't know.
Why it's attached?
She's always said that it's been attached to her since I don't know how many years, maybe like 30 plus years.
But I find it interesting that even though like you do all these cleansings and stuff and it's just permanently attached, it makes me wonder why she never got rid of it. But I did want to ask you, after we moved out of the house in New York to the other one that we lived in up until you guys moved a couple years ago, was it 3 years ago, 2 years ago, down to Florida, I never experienced anything there. I was never afraid there. Did you experience anything?
Thank God, never. I loved that house. That
Yeah.
house was so peaceful. It was like I've never experienced anything.
We had a few of those things where, you know, it's your mind playing tricks on you. Like you shut off the light downstairs and you just run up the stairs. You know, kind of like those memes that you see on TikTok where you shutting off the light and everyone's running and then they have like other people behind them dressed in like shadow suits chasing them. Yeah, that's what it felt like sometimes.
That was real in the old house.
When I would have to walk up the stairs to go up to our apartment door, I would run up those fucking stairs and I refused to look back. I would run up those damn stairs. It could be in the middle of the damn day.
No, I would
17 years old, I'm running up those stairs like a kid because I was fucking terrified. And mom would always ask, "Why are you running up the stairs?" I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like
don't want something grabbing my ankles. Like
I know. It's like Pennywise chasing your ass. But I'm glad to hear that for you as well. You didn't experience anything in that other home that we moved into.
I had good memories in that house. It was a beautiful house.
Oh yeah, definitely. It was always bright and it always felt like there was always like a nice atmosphere in there.
And like people who would always visit, they never wanted to leave.
I know. It would be like
mom would
11:30, 12 o'clock at night. Like, just please go.
And mom would be like,
just please go.
She would do that thing where she threw salt on their feet so they could leave, and they ended up leaving, which was the funny part. But
throwing so look at you witchcraft stuff over there you doing. It's ridiculous. It worked. And you wonder why we got stuff haunting us.
It worked, which is the funny part.
Well, you put a broom upside down and what?
It's like mom said, like when you put a broom upside down, people would, if you want them to leave your house, they would leave. Or you throw salt under their foot and they would leave.
All right, next time you come visit me, as soon as you walk into the door, I'm going to flip the room upside down and throw salt on your feet.
I'm not leaving without Roxy, which is their pet cat anyway.
You can take her. She's a bane of my existence.
I love her
now.
so much.
Always, she's the problem cat. We got 3 of them, and she's always the one giving trouble with the litter box. Yeah. And it's not like she's young either. She's gonna be 8 or something. So she knows what she's doing.
Chloe.
Yeah, Chloe's evil. Chloe's the cat version of that thing that was in that house following us. That's what she is.
Don't get me started on your house.
Let's not talk about that because I'm a shit myself. But what I want to talk about is you guys moved to Florida. A very nice house.
Beautiful, but very hot.
I like being there.
Don't do it. Don't move to Florida. It's hot. We've had like a heat.
Yeah, all you New Yorkers, moving to fucking Florida. Don't do it.
It's not like New York.
You're going to want to go back.
And it's too damn hot. We had like heat warnings. It's been like 115 degrees almost every damn day here. So it's been hot.
But that Florida house, why don't you, you shared some stuff with me about that house. So why don't you go into that a little bit?
Well, my experience here, it's a beautiful house. You don't really feel anything, but what I have experienced here is just seeing shadows, especially when it comes to like people being very negative and bringing negative energy into the house. Like some shit always happens. So the room that you stay at, Chris, when you come visit, that used to be my old room.
The one that you're in now doing this podcast?
Yes.
But go on.
So my bed used to be where you can look out the door. It used to be positioned like that. So one day I'm like here just watching TV, doing nothing, being bored out of my mind. And in the corner of my eye, I see a shadow like turned around the stairs and walked towards me. And I thought it was Dad, because Dad would like usually come upstairs to like either change the setting on the AC and stuff. And when I turn around, like there's nothing there. Like I turn my head and there's nothing there. So I'm like, okay. And I'll tell you a story that Mom told me. I think she has told you this, that one time she had woken up in the middle of the night because she thought she left the window open. Because this was around like wintertime. It doesn't get too hot here. It feels nice. It does go down to the 30s, but for us, it's like beautiful weather. She thought she had left the window open, so she gets up and she walks over to like the front window where the living room is by the front door. So she checks, she's like, okay. She turns around and Dad is standing there, but what freaks her out is not Dad. it's just this tall figure, black figure, standing behind him. And mom was like, Jesus Santísimo Dios, you know, she's like saying something in Spanish, she's praying, and she freaks out. And he's like, Dad was like, what happened, you know? And she's like, no, I thought I left the window open. But when she told me that, she's like, that she saw that dark figure behind Dad. We freaked out and we did a cleansing of the house, of course. And I told mom when they had bought this house, I'm like, please bring in someone to bless the house because it was an Airbnb. So you have all these people coming in, all this energy, negative energy as well. And you don't know what they bring with them. So it's like, I told her to do it. She didn't do it. But once in a while, I do see shadow figures. I haven't recently, thank God. But it's mostly when someone's being very negative or thinking negatively. I've been seeing them.
Didn't they kind of keep some of the furniture that came with the house?
They did.
Yeah. So that's kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if that has something to do with it. It may or may not. I don't think it was a lot of furniture, but it was.
We had gotten rid of a lot of the furniture because, one, it was damaged because of people don't, like when people come to rent a house, they don't care about the owner's furniture. So they would go in the pool, come out into the house and sit on the damn chairs with their wet clothes, and it destroyed the couches. The only thing we kept is the bedroom furniture, the furniture that was in my room, but this was brand new because it was not on the pictures of like the listing.
So aside from the shadow people or shadows that you saw, did you experience anything else in there, or was that kind of it? Mom did the cleansing and it was like, okay, it's
Oh, I think you remember this. This actually happened this year. This was before my aunt had came from New York. I was just laying down in my bed. I was literally being a fat ass because it was like 1 o'clock in the morning and I'm like kind of hungry. So I had like a bag of chips next to me. I'm like eating chips. And I kid you not, my bedroom door opened. And I always sleep with my door closed. I don't like sleeping with it open. I don't like it. So I hear it open and I'm like, maybe it's mom or dad, but like they usually knock the door before they come in. So I feel like I shine my flashlight on my phone looking and I'm like, okay, there's nothing there. I close the door and I'm like, okay, that's weird. And I'm trying to fall asleep, so I have to listen to something to fall asleep. So I put on my YouTube and listening to my favorite YouTuber. And like I'm falling asleep and I feel something blow in my ear. And it's not the fan. Like the fan is on, but it literally, yeah, I felt it. Like a breath of air just in my ear, and it freaked me out because I'm like, oh my god, what was that? So that night I slept with the covers over my ears like I usually do, but that was like another scary experience for me here because I've never had something like that happen to me. Like you just feel someone blowing in your ear and you know how it feels weird.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's just really uncomfortable and unsettling. Yeah, it's really uncomfortable. But I did want to ask, to wrap up the show today, your opinion on something that I did ask Cassandra at the end of her show, which she kind of went on a mini rant, which I absolutely loved. What are your thoughts? Let me put it this way. You like her, spiritual, cards, whatever, right? What are your thoughts on the people all over social media that pick up these tarot decks and pretend to know what the fuck?
Oh,
the sigh says it all.
God. Yeah, the ones that
Go ahead, let it rip.
The ones that act like they know what they're doing, but they don't know what they're doing. Those ones, like they piss me off.
Yeah, like the ones that say they like fucking talk to Loki and shit.
So I'm not a big fan of it. Like you can tell who is like legitimate and you can tell those are like, oh my god, he has brown eyes. Okay, he's 5 feet something. So a majority of people, you know, like they try to play into people. I don't like that they try to do that. Like they try to get money from people. They're what are those called? Like they're very vulnerable people. They take advantage of vulnerable people. Like I don't like that. You know, I love the whole tarot, the spirituality, But there's like certain things like when people do that to just to gain money or just to be taking advantage of vulnerable people, I don't like. Like what are you doing? Like why do you think you can do that? I don't like that they do that. They pretend and to take advantage of vulnerable people. But the ones who are actually real, you can tell because, you know, we have family members on both sides that do it. And you can tell that they're legit because they get downloads. They use crystals, they do the cleansing, they ask for your consent. The ones online on like TikTok and everything, they're like, some of them are real and some of them are fake because some of them, like, they show emotions. Like, there's some people that are very accurate. There's a person on TikTok I follow that they're accurate because everything they had said was, I tell you right now, A plus, everything that has happened. But there are other people that say certain things and then they'll be like, oh, click share to find out this and that. Or it's just the third person on your share list and it's like, dude, what?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And I know, like, on my social media feed, there are people on there that never dabbled in that stuff before, and all of a sudden they buy a deck and their fucking Instagram stories are, oh, a daily reading, yada yada yada. Like, what are you reading daily? You don't know shit. You're just flipping a card and
They're
you're
getting their information from the little
you're
book.
yeah, and whereas with some of our family members, they don't need the book.
They just tell you how it is.
It's one of those
Yeah, and
things.
sometimes they go
I'm
back
sorry, go
to the
ahead.
book so they can be like, oh yeah, this is the meaning. But then sometimes they're like, oh yeah, this is the meaning, but I'm getting something else from it. They're getting a different vibe. What I have experienced from getting my readings is like totally different from what they're doing on TikTok and the fake ones that they're like, you know, like you mentioned, the daily readings. Like, okay, you're doing a daily reading, but for who? You know what I mean? Like, you can do it for like one person stuff, but it's just, I feel like because it's a trend right now, that's why they're doing it.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of The Wandering Road. You can find us on Apple, Google, Spotify, and most podcast platforms. Be sure to subscribe and share. Also, don't forget to give a follow on Instagram at twroadpodcast and follow my TikTok at twrpodcast. Take care, and I'll catch you on the next one.